guys, and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm here with the introduction for my Pan Those Eyeshadows. If you have been watching some of my Project Pan finales and things like that, you knew that I was considering not doing this project this year, but I have opted into doing it anyway. But I am going to switch up my rules a little bit this year, so yeah, it's going to be a little bit different, but it's mainly going to stay the same. But before we jump into any of my changes, if you're new here, please consider subscribing. I would love to have you in the family. But let's just jump into the video. So, like I said, I am switching up this project a little bit this year. I have decided to down my number of shadows from 5 down to 4, just to make it easier, because I do want to focus on some other projects in my collection, and I also want to mainly focus on my project Level Up, which I introduced 2 days ago. If you haven't seen that video, please go make sure and check it out, because like I said, that is going to be my main eyeshadow project and I'm going to focus on that more. Before, Pan Those Eyeshadows has always been my main priority when it comes to panning eyeshadows, and all the other projects became like secondary to that, if that makes sense. But I'm going to switch it up, and I am going to mainly focus on my project Level Up, and then Pan Those Eyeshadows can come secondary to that. So that is how I'm going to structure it this year, and that's why I'm also lowering my eyeshadows down to 4. The second rule that I'm going to add in this year is that I want to add a usage goal of 15, or like a kind of like a chance to beat something else after 15 uses. That is mainly because I also want to rotate through things quicker in this project, and this year I don't necessarily want to hit pan on everything in my collection. My main goal of this project will still be to hit pan, because it is called Pan Those Eyeshadows, and I don't want it to become a project where things roll out like every single month without any pans. I want majority of the eyeshadows still rolling out with pan, but for more difficult shadows, for maybe my indie shadows, my special shadows, things like that, I think a 15 usage goal would be ideal, and that's why I'm adding that in. And also, I don't want to pressure myself to necessarily pan, and additionally I do want to use my collection to look more used this year, rather than necessarily working on the same eyeshadow for like 30 uses before I pan, if that makes sense. So that's why I'm adding in the 15 usage goal, and yeah, those two are mainly the two changes I'm making this year. So not massive changes, but it is still going to switch up the products a little bit. The last kind of rule that I have is that I don't want to work on anything similar to things in my Panda palette. So I am working on the Modern Renaissance palette in my Panda palette this year, and that is full of mainly matte shadows. Most shadows in there are mattes, and I don't want to roll anything in that kind of overlaps with those, because I know that palette will take a lot of work this year, and that is going to be also a priority this year, is to actually finish that palette. So I don't want to roll in things in this project that overlaps with that palette, and if I do, I will allow myself to re-roll, like no matter how many times that happens this year. So I'm not going to have a specific amount of vetoes. I just want to make sure that like the eyeshadows I roll into this project doesn't overlap with the things that I'm working on, particularly in my palettes. Also, before I move on with the video, you might see that my background is very empty today. I have mentioned this in a few videos, but I am actually moving on the 20th of January, so not that long. It's coming up very, very fast. I feel like with Christmas and everything, I was traveling to Sweden over Christmas and New Year's, and like I had that first, and now the move is actually starting to like become real. So we started packing up a few things, and like the bookshelf was something that was easy to pack up already, and used to start getting things in boxes, because obviously like we're not going to use most of the books. We saved actually 2 books. They're up here. You can't see them out of frame. I might actually move them down just to have something nice in the background, but we did save 2 books on the bookshelf, because we are currently working on a book each, and I've just thought in case we do finish that book, we have a second one to work on before we move. So I did save 2 books, so let's just move them down there so you can at least have something in the background. But yeah, I just wanted to let you know in case you're wondering why it's so empty behind me. So now when I've gone through all of the rules of this project, let's go through and randomize my 4 shades that I'm going to work on. Again, if I do roll something that's similar to my Panda palette, I will re-roll, but otherwise everything goes. So let's go ahead and randomize the first number, which is going to be number 822. 822 should be one of my singles of some sort. It might even be one of my Super Shock shadows, but if it is, I will have pan on all of them already, so then I will have to re-roll. But let's just go ahead and see. Okay, it's not actually one of my Super Shock shadows. It is a single from Burberry, and that is in the shade Rosewood. Okay, so that is going to be the first item. Not the most exciting one. It's more of a satin kind of shade, but it's fine as long as, again, it's not similar to anything in my palette, that will go. So let's go ahead and randomize the second number, which is going to be 277. Okay, so 277 is a really exciting one. It's a shadow that comes from my Natasha Denona Gold palette, and it is the shade Alchemist. And I'm just thinking if it is one of the browns in there, because if it is, then it might be similar to the browns in my palette, but again, we're going to check that in a second. But that is going to be my second number. Then the third one is going to be number 48. Okay, so 48 comes from Anastasia's Sultry palette, and it is the shade Bloom, which if you have the palette you know which shade that is. So that's going to be the third one, and then the very last shadow is going to be number 616. Okay, so 616 is a very, very exciting shadow. This is actually one of my multi-chromes from Cleona. So this is also kind of what I mean, that I want to have 15 uses on some of my special shades, because I definitely don't want to pan on this eyeshadow because it is so special to me, and I'm not quite ready to pan on my Cleona eyeshadows, at least not through projects. Through genuine use, fine, but not on like Pan Those Eyeshadows or anything like that. But that is the shade Weld, which is one of their jeweled multi-chromes, and yeah, that's the last eyeshadow. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull out my 4 eyeshadows, and I will also bring my palette just to check that all of the eyeshadows are fine to work on, and yeah, I will show them to you in a second. So I'm back and I have my palettes right here, and the single, I guess. So let's just start with the single. I think that was the one that was rolled the first as well. This comes from Burberry, and it's one of their sheer eyeshadows in the shade Rosewood, and the packaging of these are stunning, just by the way. But inside, this is what the eyeshadow looks like, and I think this one should be fine. I don't think this will overlap with anything in my Panda palette. Yeah, definitely not. So I'm gonna swatch this one out so you can see what it looks like. And by the way, I've always been scared of using the embossment, so I always use it up here, but I think it's time to start using it in the middle, because that's usually how I panel things in this eyeshadow project. So yeah, that is what it looks like on my fingers, very sheer as you can see, but I'm gonna swatch it out on my hand as well. So there you have the shade Rosewood from Burberry, and that is the first eyeshadow. The second eyeshadow came from my gold palette by Natasha Denona, and I haven't actually checked what eyeshadow it is, but it's called Alchemist. And Alchemist, yes, it's actually one of the shimmer shades, which won't be close to anything in my palette, and that is this shade down here, which is more of a kind of neutral gold shade, and I'm going to swatch this one out for you. And there you have Alchemist. Again, that is more of a kind of neutral gold. It still has some yellow to it, but it's not as yellow as some of the other golds in the gold palette. But I'm really, really excited to work on this one, but I'm not sure I will have pan on this one in 15 uses, because it is, I know how deeply Natasha Denona pans are, so we'll see how that one goes. This is another palette that I'm not sure if I want to just drill a hole in a pan. I want to get more use out of all of the eyeshadows, so I think this might be one where my 15 uses come in handy. So we'll see how that goes again, but that is the shadow, and it's so sparkly. Like, you just look at the difference in these two shimmers. It's absolutely amazing, and I'm really, really happy that I picked this palette up before it got... Oh, actually, I got it as a present, but I got it before it was discontinued, because I really, really love this eyeshadow palette. Next up, we have my Sultry palette, and I rolled in the shade Bloom, and again, you know what shadow this is if you have this palette, because it is like sort of the outlier in the palette. It is this kind of pink shade up there. I don't think I've even used this eyeshadow, to be honest. It looks brand new and I can't recall using it, so it's definitely going to be interesting reaching for, and it might not be the best shadow for January, but it's definitely going to be good when we get into the kind of spring months, and also for February, to be honest, with Valentine's Day and everything, so that's going to be good. And I also feel like it will work really well with the red tones in my Panda palette, which is again the Body Renaissance, like Venetian Red, Love Letter, those kind of shadows. So I think that will work well with those, and I'm excited to roll this in. And there you have Bloom. I think Bloom will actually work really well with that gold shade from the Natasha Denona palette as well. And yeah, I'm excited to roll this in, and it's actually the only matte that I rolled in, which is pretty good, because I am, like I said, working on a lot of mattes in my palette, so it's going to be good to mainly have shimmer shades. But that is from the Sultry palette, and it's the shade Bloom. I think Bloom is one where I'm not sure if I'll be able to hit pan on in 15 uses, but I think I might push beyond 15 uses with this one, because I don't mind if I hit pan on this eyeshadow, because I already have quite a few pans in this palette, and it's one that I want to get more use out of overall. So yeah, I will see how I go, but if I do have a pretty decent dip by 15 uses, I definitely push on and hit pan on it instead. But also the Anastasia formula matte can be quite hit and miss when it comes to like how quickly you pan on them, so we'll see how it goes. But yeah, this one is one that I probably will try to pan on at least. And then the last eyeshadow that I rolled in comes from my Cleona palette. This is actually one of my Cleona palettes, but it is the one with mainly the colored ones, and this is what it looks like. It's absolutely stunning. It's I love this palette, I love it so much. But the shade we rolled in is this shade here, which is Wild. I don't know if you can pick up the shift on camera, but it goes from like this, you can see like almost rosy tone right there, and it goes into a really bright green. I'm not sure again if you can pick it up, but I will swatch it out for you. And there you have Weld on my finger. These are so high impact. Again, I don't know how much you'll be able to pick it up, but it is such a stunning shade. Like when I look at it this way, it's bright green. It even goes into a bluish purple, but you can see that pink shift right there, and it's such a stunning shade. And there you have Weld. It's such a beautiful shade. It is one of the black based multi-chromatic from Cleona, so it's definitely quite deep, but look at the shine on that eyeshadow. It's stunning. And again, hopefully you can pick up the green a little bit. I might put up my phone to try to put my flashlight on so you can see the shift better, because it's, yeah, you can probably see it better there. It's such a stunning eyeshadow, and yeah, you can see a bit more of the shift there. It's, although it's not completely, I think you can see, like I said, it's better, and it is again such a unique shade in my collection. I'm really excited to reach for this one, but it's definitely going to be more of a 15 use gold rather than hidden pan, because like I said, I'm not ready to pan on my Cleona eyeshadows yet. So that is my color story for my first round of Pan Those Eyeshadows. I'm really excited, and I'm glad I decided to do this project. Although I was kind of debating if I would or not, but I think these eyeshadows will work really well with what I'm panning. And I think I got it quite easy with the eyeshadows I rolled in. I mean, well, this is not going to be something that I can reach on an everyday basis, but I can definitely reach for it as a liner or as an accent shade, or as well, obviously in my videos, because it is such a impact shade. But yeah, that free, I think I will have a really easy time incorporating into everyday looks. And again, I think all three of them work really well with my Pan palette, which is something that I was ideally wanting in this project, because that means that I can get use out of things both in this project as well as in my Pan palette. So that is it for today. I really hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please go ahead and give it a thumbs up. And in future videos I will continue as normal. I will update monthly. I will try to incorporate some looks that I did over the past month in those updates as well. But if you want anything else specifically in my updates, let me know. Otherwise, that will be pretty similar to last year. So that is it for today. I hope you're having a lovely day wherever you are, and I will catch you in my next one. Bye guys.